with even successful investors, right? They maybe have heard of Bitcoin in way lower prices, maybe 500,000, maybe 10,000, right? And didn't buy it. And now they look at the number and say, 35,000, 38,000, I missed the train, right? It will go lower. And I think they still have not understand the asset class yet. And I really can only encourage those people to just maybe rewatch some of the videos, try to understand the space, and it is way more potential there, right? I mean, what I said, gold parity, sure, with 500,000 is one thing, but if Bitcoin can capture just a little bit more than that, becomes a little bit of a payment for even what Jack Dorsey was saying in the Bitcoin conference, like, or Katie Woods, 4 billion people can get onboarded into the crypto space because they don't have a bank account. Like, boom, like it's huge.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Crypto Weekly podcast, the show where we interview the top movers and shakers in the crypto industry. Today, I'm joined with Eric Kasanowski, the co-founder and chief investment officer at Decentral Capital. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, always a pleasure talking to you. Looking forward to the interview.
Likewise. So Eric's been on the show a few times, and this week we're doing a market update because we've had some big movements in the Bitcoin price. We wanted to analyze why we think that's happening, some of the news that's coming out around Bitcoin, and some of the things to look out for in the news as well. So Eric, big bounce off of the 29K low. What do you think is causing such a bounce?
Yeah, I think there's multiple reasons. So first of all, I would say a lot of people are always saying on-chain data are really important to look at. And I think it has shown it. Like, there is a huge demand from bigger people and also from smaller people who actually acquire Bitcoin. I would say that most of the people have now the biggest crypto holdings, not really speaking in the US dollar net worth, but in the coin accumulation itself, or the amount of coins they hold. And at the same time, also Grayscale, how can I say, they unlocked their fund. I think this is also now slowly trailing. There's a little bit of action happening on their end in the middle of August. So I also still expect, even if the price went up, that we, I think, will not shoot through straight to the 40s, into the 50s or higher. I think we will probably hit the 40s, go back a little bit, maybe we go under the 35s again, but it will range 2 or 3 more weeks till the middle of August. And then I hope that we see a constant rise, similar to what we have seen last year, where we have hopefully a new all-time high by the end of the year.
Nice. I'm sharing the same sentiment, but you said one thing that's really important. And I think a lot of newcomers tend to look at their Bitcoin in US dollar value. And what you said is, it's more important to accumulate Bitcoin, than it is to look at your US dollar value, because as we all know, what is the dollar pegged to, right? There's no real peg for what a dollar is actually worth, and actually it decreases each year. So the way you should be looking at your crypto holdings is, how much Bitcoin do I hold? Are my alternative investments outpacing Bitcoin, or are they not? And that's a great method to use. And I think it's something that's lost on a lot of new people to the industry. Would you agree?
It is. I 100% agree with you. And I think also, to add to your point, because you're 100% right, it is why I think there's this narrative out there that a lot of bigger institutions are into the crypto space. And for sure, there's more bigger institutions right now in the space than it was maybe a year or 2 years ago. But that being said, it is not a lot, right? I think we still see the same names. Maybe we see a little bit of Tesla, we see MicroStrategy, we see other bigger hedge funds, or maybe other companies who are already invested in. But the reason is, as you said, is that I want to say mindfuck with even successful investors, right? They maybe have heard of Bitcoin in way lower prices, maybe 500,000, maybe 10,000, right? And didn't buy it. And now they look at the number and say, 35,000, 38,000, I missed the train, right? It will go lower. And I think they still have not understand the asset class yet. And I really can only encourage those people to just maybe rewatch some of the videos, try to understand the space. And it is way more potential there, right? I mean, what I said, gold parity, sure, with 500,000 is one thing, but if Bitcoin can capture just a little bit more than that, becomes a little bit of a payment for even what Jack Dorsey was saying in the Bitcoin conference, like, or Katie Woods, 4 billion people can get onboarded into the crypto space because they don't have a bank account. Like, boom, like it's huge.
What and what better use case than that, right? If we look at the adoption of new technology as how many users, or what's the size of the total addressable market, and truly for Bitcoin, that's infinite, because the total addressable market is all the value that we create as a human species, and that just continues to grow each year. So I think you're totally right in that respect. Let's talk a little bit more about the conference, because last week we had a conference called the B Word Conference. This was for institutional investors looking to get into Bitcoin. One of the keynote panels was with Cathie Wood from ARK Invest, Jack Dorsey from Square, Cash App, and Twitter, and Elon Musk, which, some people were interested to see him, knowing that he's kind of had his ups and downs with Bitcoin. But I think one of the great things that he said was, and some of the news that he revealed, is that not only does he hold Bitcoin personally, but Tesla owns Bitcoin and SpaceX. So I don't think that SpaceX news was released yet, and I think that was another thing that helped push the market forward. What were your thoughts on that conference?
I think it was very good, and I think it was very constructive, like in a lot of ways. Like, we know that Elon Musk can be a little bit of a wild card to the crypto space. I think he was celebrated as a hero, and then once the price went down, he was basically the bad guy. But if you look at the video overall, you can always pick certain areas out and say, oh, he said this or he said that, but it was very constructive, and he did not try to shill anything or to downplay a lot of things. And I think he was really, really rational, engaged in the conversation, overall speaking, what I think is very valuable, right? Because it is a big statement also to other investors. And I think now the earnings call for Tesla happened yesterday on Monday, and he stood to it, right? They did not sell any Bitcoin; they still hold it. They haven't also not added anything either, but it just shows that is, like, he understands it on a grand scheme, and there is a reason why he's also holding it personally. I would also not be surprised if even Jeff Bezos or other people hold it privately, right? I mean, it's always a different beast to bring something on into a company, because it's not just convincing people, but it's also a statement, right? And I think also a big backlash that Elon maybe had initially became from the green energy debate, right? Like, he maybe needed to pull back a little bit, because he is, of course, also a little bit dependent on certain government funds, that basically has a big impact on his balance sheet. But Katie Woods I think she brought up the ESG topic again, right? And I think she just basically debunked and say, hey, why Bitcoin is such a great investment on that end. And I mean, Jack Dorsey, I mean, he would just go all in if he could, right?
Yeah. And he's also very much, interested in the social good that comes from, banking the unbanked and bringing Bitcoin into some of the emerging markets in Africa. So I think, those three forces together make a really strong case for institutions that we're watching, that Bitcoin is not only, greener than people suspect, but also is a store of value that can, add a lot of benefit to their balance sheet. I think the other point you made that is, sound, is the billionaires that we see promoting Bitcoin is just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's so many that are now building positions, but privately, because why would they promote their positions if they haven't fully filled them yet, right? And so I think what we're seeing in the headlines is just the tip of the iceberg, and the true, smart money that really understands the asset class, they're getting in privately behind the scenes until they've built their positions, and then they can start promoting. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that come Q4 this year. But I think, the conference was a well-needed shot in the arm for the crypto space, to finally get some good news after about 2 months of just down and to the left, price action down and to the right.
I 100% agree. It was just needed. And I mean, also the FUD that happened before, I mean, you can say some of it was maybe little bit legit. I mean, we cannot say that the market was at 65,000, right? It almost rallied up from 10,000 to 65,000, and it was way over leveraged. And everybody who says something different is just not paying attention to the data. And it just happened to all those asset classes who have a network effect, right? Like it happened to Amazon stocks, it happened to Facebook. Like if you look back, they also had down corrections of 50%, if not greater. And what I said for the stock market, it is already a really established marketplace, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I said, like, if you imagine how robust Bitcoin is as an asset class at this point, right? Like, you know, it went down to 29%, but it's still functioning, still making its transactions. It's not shutting down. No government needed to step in and needed to rescue Bitcoin, you know, with any additional spendings or money printing. And this is just the power of a free market and real resilience. And this is why it will continue to thrive upwards.
You're absolutely right. And I think going to a technical perspective, right, one of the reasons we had such a massive drawdown was, as you said, so much leverage in the space. But I think, you know, on the flip side, another reason why we had so much of a pump was because there was leverage. People were leveraging short and hoping that Bitcoin would test back down to the $20,000 range. And then, as I would call it, institutional investors held that 30K line, their shorts started to get squeezed, and we started to see a massive short squeeze. So, you know, I think there still remains too much leverage in the ecosystem. I think one of the great pieces of news that came out was FTX and Binance both reducing their leverage trading limits down from 100x to 20x. So hopefully that you know, takes out some of the systemic risk in the, you know, in the industry with too much leverage.
Yeah, and I mean, like, leverage is still a viable option, like to accumulate more money, right? I mean, you can also do it with stocks or in any other markets. It is just, you know, the amount of leverage. But on the other side, the beauty in the crypto space is that everything that you're leveraging, you basically put a collateral up. And if you cannot hold it, of course you get liquidated, but you cannot lose more than that. I mean, this is already worse enough, right? Don't get me wrong. But yeah, this is just the thing that people need to understand, that a lot of things is also just greed driven. Like, there is no patience. Like, I think I also blame partially social media for it. Like, I mean, you see a lot of buzzwords, hypes coming up, you know, Bitcoin to 100K tomorrow, 25K Bitcoin going to zero. And it's like, if we just would cut off that run up, like the 65 peak, and just say, okay, from last year to now, from 10,000 to 30,000 is an okay price increase in terms of Bitcoin. Like, it's still huge, right? Don't get me wrong. But I mean, because we hit the 65K ceiling, everybody has different expectations or looks that asset class through a different eye set, right? And this is really, really important to just step back and say, hey, I'm still up 250% from last year. And what other asset class can say that?
Yeah, and I think you're totally right. And if we look at some of the new retail investors coming into crypto, for a lot of these people, this is the first time they've ever invested, right? Because they're seeing this new asset class that's gaining so much traction, 24/7 markets, right? It's, you know, a gambler's paradise. And, you know, one thing that, you know, you need to understand as a trader is something that goes up parabolically doesn't stay going up, you know, in a parabolic fashion forever. So we went up 5 times in 6 months. So a 5x in a 6-month period. It's tough to, you know, create a bull case for that to continue too much longer, right? So as we both know, we were in need of a correction. But I think last time we chatted, we both thought we're far from the end of the market cycle. What made you so confident that this, you know, 65K peak was not the end of the bull market?
I mean, I see it in two different ways. I think first, on-chain data is still, what we spoke about earlier, quite strong. You know, there is demand, people want to buy it. And I mean, a lot of those, I always say, weekends are flushed out. And I think it just becomes a more healthier base at this level right now. And I think once the media and the news turn a little bit more positive and everything comes together, technical analysis and you name it, you know, and it will automatically create another hype cycle and it goes up. But the thing is, why I say we had those blow off tops, for example, in 2017, right? And this was basically, it was not Bitcoin. That was basically the reason why we went up so high. It was ICOs. Like, if we would not had ICOs to that extent with that high speculation and people could earn $1 million by just putting up a white paper of 1 page and say, give me money, and we maybe would not have gone that high. Maybe Bitcoin would have gone from $1,000 to $5,000, and maybe would have gone down to $3,000, right? And it would not have stayed that long in the bear market. And the same thing happened in 2013. I think the reason why Bitcoin went down so harsh was Mt. Gox hack, right? It was the only exchange, and it shook out the entire ecosystem. No one knows what was going on. And I would say if we do not necessarily see such crazy blow off tops, like if Bitcoin would go from today till year end to, let's say, 200, 250,000, I would say it is too high right now. And we would probably see a sharper correction similar to 2017. But if we go up maybe to 80,000, 100,000, we see a little bit of a setback, but it will not last that long and it will not go down that steep. And this is my thinking.
Yeah, and I think also to your point, the other kind of factor that I was looking at is how long we stayed near that $60,000 band, right? If we look back to 2017, I think we were only within 10% of the peak price for 3 days. So it was all the way up and then, a quick crash back down. Whereas this, we were setting, relatively slower, higher highs and higher lows. And so we could see the sentiment in the market starting to kind of roll over, but it happened gradually. And usually when we see these blow off tops, it happens all at once, back in 2013 and, back in 2017. So I think that's still to come. And if you look at kind of the expanding cycle theory, I think, that might happen, sometime in the early 2022. But I do, echo your point. And I think we're still far away enough from the cycle peak to see a lot more of a rally come Q4 this year.
I think so. And there's also still good news to look out for. Like, there's still so many, we spoke initially, people who can invest into Bitcoin and make it basically public and announce it. And we are still having the Bitcoin ETF outstanding, especially in the US. Mm-hmm. And I don't know when it will get accepted. Some people say the soonest at the end of Q4, more likely sounds like the beginning of Q1 next year. But once this is open, it will give especially pension funds and other institutions who basically have a huge amount of money, just the opportunity to buy into Bitcoin and hold it. And
Yeah. I think there's the best is yet to come for this market cycle for sure. Let's talk a little bit about, something to look out for in the news. And we had chatted about this before we started recording, but there's a lot of fake news circulating in the crypto ecosystem. And, it can be tough to look at some of these news outlets and see just carbon copy stories that are clearly false being replicated and sent all over the internet. So how big of a structural issue do you think that is for the crypto ecosystem? And how do we get around that?
I think it is unfortunately quite harmful, I have to say. Like, it keeps a lot of people who are not invested in out of the space, because some of those headlines are so exuberant and it feels like it's almost just driven by a tweet of someone or by someone making a comment. Like, the latest thing that we saw is the Amazon announcement, that Amazon is potentially getting into Bitcoin. And I'm not saying it will not happen on Sunday, but it's just a rumor that is putting out there, right? And people speculate on it, people hope of it, and prices move. It is just very, very hurtful, because you saw the reversal once Amazon basically went public and said they denied it and said, no, we are not going into cryptocurrencies. Mm-hmm. And it is just like, how can someone take an asset class or something serious if there is just so much fraud and so much negativity sometimes out there? Mm-hmm. And I know that this is the skill of investing, basically ignore the noise and listen to the signal that is standing out. But it is really, 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 really hard for the average investor to understand what is real, what is fake, what to expect. And unfortunately, a lot of YouTubers are just playing with those emotions of the people, and they understand that also investing can have certain gambling additions. I mean, this is also the reasons why certain websites are designed that way. And we really, this is why I say regulation is just needed. I think it just needs to get someone who oversees that also from a news perspective, partially, right? And just make sure that if there is a claim made, it is either seen as a speculation or rumor if they don't have the facts or the statement from the company to release it. And I hope it's getting better.
Likewise. And, you know, shameless self-promotion here, but at Crypto Weekly, what we try and do is we try and curate content for the average investor, right? And so on YouTube, there's so much content out there. It's so easy to get caught up in the noise. What we do is we have a curated YouTube feed of only trusted advisors and investors and influencers in the crypto space. And so we make it easy for you. Instead of having to go search through a bunch of YouTube videos, we have a feed that just brings up the newest videos from some of the most trusted names in the ecosystem. And then you don't have to worry about finding what's true and what's not. We try and do that for you. So to the best of our abilities, we're helping to kind of streamline the noise for the crypto ecosystem. Let's talk a little bit about Decentral Capital for a second. What's new with your fund? How are things going? And what's on the roadmap on the horizon that we could look out for?
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 months was certainly hard for investors to watch, but the good thing is we educate our clients, right? I mean, they know what they are in for. They have a long-term conviction in their investments, and we have not lost a single investor during the downtrend. And I think this speaks for our quality. And the good thing is that we are building right now more relationships with other partners to accumulate, more money for our fund, for our setup. And yeah, I say it again, the crypto space is still so young. There is still so much to come in the next 10 years that it is just a joy to be in. And I hope that we can take and onboard more people and take them on the ride, because there's enough of the pie for everyone to have a piece of cake of it. And I hope we can probably convince people or educate people to get into the crypto space. And they should certainly reach out to us if they have any questions, and we can also help them get invested for sure.
And where should they reach out to you if they wanted to look for Decentral Capital? How would they find you?
I would say the best thing is go to our website at decentralcapital.ca. And I think you have a lot of information there for free that is just basic information about the space, as well as also if you want to invest or talk to one of our advisors, just click a sign up form or a contact form, and we get back to you as soon as possible.
Awesome. Well, Eric, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Always enjoy kind of picking your brain and getting your market update. Until next time, we will see you soon, and best of luck with everything at Decentral Capital.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Hopefully we can talk soon.
Cheers.
Bye.